Okay, I will call this February 18th special meeting of the Knox County Commission to order. All three commissioners are here. As almost always, we start with a public comment period. Is there anybody who would like to address the commission on any issue? Anyone? Seeing as there's none, I will move on to the next business, which is the routine business. Routine business we have here, which would be the submission of minutes from the last three meetings. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten copies of those, so I would request that get a motion to table them. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? My question is, have they already been written and we just didn't get copies of them, or they still need to be written?
They have been written, you just have not received copies, so you'll have a bulk amount in March.
Thank you.
Okay.
That being the case, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Three in favor, none opposed. Then we have some action items. The first one is an act to approve the agreement for services pursuant to 30A MRS 107 with the town of Camden. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? We do have the sheriff here who might like to talk about it, and some representatives of Camden, if they would like to, but anybody who wants to come forward, please.
Without arms. Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing this. So before you is an agreement for us to go into a short-term temporary agreement with the town of Camden to provide them with services as the chief of their agency. So how we got here is probably an important thing. So as you folks have heard from me and my team over the last several years, has been a challenge in public safety, specifically for law enforcement, just getting staffing in a lot of these agencies. We've been fortunate here at the Sheriff's Office for the last year to be fully staffed and not having much attrition, thank goodness, but we've had it around as well. But as we've seen with some of the towns, same problem is we seem to be kind of as one newspaper mentioned it, of kind of a merry-go-round, if you will, of staff between agencies. We've been trying to figure that out between us as the chiefs and the sheriff for a while, and it's just hard. There's not many people getting to this job. So back in September, Camden and Rockport were both dealing with some staffing challenges. Worked with the town managers and the chief at the time to help provide coverage for those two towns and some timeframes that we won't speak about necessarily publicly, but we do provide coverage to those towns, or had up to this point, because of those staffing issues. Rockport was able to get out of theirs. They're now fully staffed. Part of that agreement is once they get fully staffed, we will then come back to providing coverage to where we normally do, because they do appreciate that we don't have the budget for it currently, even though I have asked in other budgets, and I'll continue to ask, but that's a challenge sometimes, is budget is passed with what we have, it's not necessarily for what we could do. This situation in particular, with the chief leaving, so the town of Camden did ask to meet with us a few times, just like Rockport did over the last several months. I got a specific request to meet with them again and talk about, they're losing a chief. They still have some staffing challenges. They froze one position budgetary wise. They have several new members on their agency. Just wanted to hear options. So provided them options. A week or two later, the town reached out again and said, we would like to go into a contract for at least chief services temporarily until they could figure out the bigger picture for their town. I brought that to legal counsel, spoke with Ms. Christie about it as well, brought the agreement before the chair. We agreed with the legal counsel of Camden to present it. They heard it last night. I think around this specific topic in particular, there was mostly good comments. Yes, there were some not so good comments, as far as some people felt it might be a slap in the face to the current staff in-house, but I can't speak to that. I'm not member of Camden's agency. I don't know what reason isn't there, but there was some good discussion that they had. A lot of discussion actually had to do more with what unknown future there could be. I think that's more of a conversation that that community needs to have. But just like last night, I think this is part of what the county's mission is to help provide the towns with service in any way that we can. I think this is a easy way to do it in a temporary fashion, just like we did with patrol coverage.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Comments? No question.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, if you've got comments, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure that what we had.
Yeah.
We had-
I've been, because I'm one of the people responsible for working out agreements, I was part of all meetings with Camden, and the sheriff. And, I think it's in regard, I was at the meeting last night and a bunch of townspeople upset. And I think there are two different issues which the sheriff just talked about. Number one is needing temporary leadership. And last night there was concern from the select board about whether we should go ahead with that. But I need to remind people that the chief's retirement is effective in one more day. And so there is no time to, if we don't okay this agreement, they would have no leadership in town, no official leadership. And they haven't had time, I think, to really dive into how they want to look forward. So I think it's really important to do this. And I've had some discussions with a lot of people from Camden. I am the Camden, I'm the commissioner for District 3, which includes Camden, and I am a Camden resident. And in terms of, moving forward, I have to say as a Camden resident, I agree with a number of the people I've just talked with that I'm in favor of maintaining the Camden Police Department down the line when they work out the leadership situation and budgeting and all of that. But I think this is a really important deal because we need leadership right now because we are out of time. And just leave it at that.
I do have one question. Could you talk a little bit about in this contract that has been drafted, that the town will pay $1 for the services of you stepping in the temporary sheriff role. Can you just talk about that $1 fee and how we got to that level of agreement and why the $1? Because I think for some folks, it might seem odd that the sheriff may be doing additional duties and the county isn't being paid for it, or what have you. People just might have questions about that.
So, coming from a place of the taxes that already exist. So, no fault of the 4 towns that have their own police department, but they also have to pay their county tax still. They're already paying for our service. They're already paying for a sheriff. They're already paying for a chief deputy, a captain, a patrol division. They just don't take advantage of it because they have their own police department. So I felt that it was fair to say that we should do this at no cost, but legal counsel says that there has to be some exchange of monetary value in order to have a contract. So the $1 is so that there is a contractual thing, but it is part of the service that's already there. That's the other piece that's important is it's not going to be just me. It is the team. It is the entire sheriff's office. I'm already providing some patrol coverage for certain periods of time. This is just expanding upon that in a leadership way that, in my opinion, is not going to be taxing to us. A lot of law enforcement work across the state is the same. We're all certified from the same academy. We all go through the same training. There may be in-house training that's slightly different, but we have certain policies that have to be the same across the board. We call them the minimum mandatory policies. Even a lot of the in-house policies are very similar because they all come from the same groups of people, either the Maine Chiefs of Police Association or the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. So a lot of that is duplicative in a way. So I don't feel it is going to be a super heavy lift at all for us to provide that service. So I think it is fair if it goes beyond that leadership piece and starts getting into bigger things, we may have to have a more in-depth discussion. But I think based on the face of what we're looking at here, it's not a big lift, and I think it is fair for everyone.
So you feel that sheriff's department has the capacity to do this and it will not be a burden or shift resources in any way that is sort of untenable for your operations?
I do not, and one of the things that I didn't bring up last night, because I felt the community needed to talk, but the challenge is, one of the board members mentioned, is the sheriff's gotta cover anyway. If they lost all their people today, we would be responsible to provide law enforcement to that town. And that's the challenge that the sheriff faces often, unfortunately, having been the chief deputy, working with other sheriffs, being lieutenant working for other sheriffs. That is a real thing when they face these personnel challenges. So anything we can do to support in the least impactful way, the better off I think our communities will be.
Thank you.
My observation, I think I've made it before, is when an agency like a police agency or sometimes even a form of government loses its administrator, whether it's the police chief or the town administrator, the town will often reach out to a separate agency. Sometimes it's the main, whatever it is, the chiefs of Maine Association, the Maine, or the Maine Municipal Association, to find somebody who can fill in an interim basis. Oftentimes it'll be an ex-policeman or an ex-administrator from another town, people who have expertise. The only difference here is that Camden has reached out to an agency that's next door that they're already paying for to some extent. So it's not like this is a big jump for an agency to hire somebody outside of the agency. It's not an uncommon thing. It just so happens that it's you, and we have a certain level of faith and trust in you to do the job correctly. I don't think that we're hurting the county any by allowing you to do this. And I think we are helping one of our constituent towns when they need something. I think that's one of the jobs that we want the county to fulfill in the next few years, is if a town needs something, we want to be there to be the one who helps provide that service. Any more discussion? Any other questions?
One thing I'll just make clear, if Camden were in the future to bring in the sheriff department, I have full confidence in our sheriff department to do the job properly. When I'm saying I'm citizen Camden, I like having the Camden Police Department. That's been there for years and years and comfortable with it. I think it's a great department. Things can go either way, but I just want to make that clear that I have confidence in both departments.
Any further discussion? Seeing, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll just say one more thing.
Sure.
I just want to.
This is a big issue, so you're.
It is a big issue. And I just want to say that I am comfortable with moving forward with this contract, and because it is temporary, and I think it gives time for Camden to think about the longer term. So I think this, again, is an important service that we can provide, and moving forward, regardless of the decisions that the town and the townspeople of Camden make, the county wants to be a partner. So in any way that we can support the town of Camden in, securing high quality law enforcement for their town, we want to be there to support them in that, whatever the outcome is. So I just want to reinforce that we are collaborators and we want to, we just want to be there to support the town.
I think you touched on one other thing, and I think you touched on it too, is this is a contract that we're very limited, defined contract of what we're doing with Camden. We have contracts with other towns. We have contracts with Vinyl Haven and North Haven. We've been discussing contracts with some of the other towns that would like more sheriff's coverage. I don't know where that's gonna go. I would rather see us develop a way to provide more coverage for every town in the county. That's down the road a bit, and we have to have that discussion, but this is just another contract that we have as a subcontract for a service that we're offering.
And I do have one more thing, one thing that came up in the meeting last night, someone was concerned that because the sheriff would be in charge, that the commission would have say over law enforcement in Camden, as opposed to the select board, and that is not the case. I want to make that clear, the commission will have no decision about what happens with law enforcement in town, that's still between the, temporary chief and the town manager and the select board in Camden. They're the ones that are in charge.
And I did explain that a little bit last night too, that it is a little different relationship for us as well. I mean, the sheriff being elected and the commission being elected, we are in essence equals. It's a little harder sometimes for the towns to understand because it's a much more linear, hierarchy, if you will.
Yes. There's nothing further, I'll call the vote.
I just,
Oh,
did
what?
anyone else want to?
Would anybody else like to address this? None. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed, carried. The next item, action item is an act to approve and authorize the chair to sign the county administrator's contract and to vote to appoint the county administrator. Do I have a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I will just address part of this because, and I think we need to talk about this a little bit more probably down the road. For an awful lot of people, it's been confusing, and I am probably partly to blame for this. But we had an administrator last year whose contract ran out in December, the end of December. And so therefore, at the end of December, we no longer had a administrator. During that time, there was some miscommunication about what the status of the administrator was or would be, and we hired an interim. Very graciously, our HR director, Mike Schultz, stepped in and helped us. And in the meantime, somewhere along the line, our previous administrator said, hey, wait a second, being county administrator in Knox County is not that bad a job. And I think, I would like to have it back. And we had some negotiation and basically said, yeah, we think you're pretty good. We'd like to have you back. So this contract is with our prior administrator, bringing her back in a slightly modified role. The contract is a little bit different, but it's still as county administrator. And I would like to, over the course of the next week or so, schedule a meeting with departmental staff to have a discussion about this where people can ask us questions about what the heck we did and why we did it. But in the meantime, I think we need to have a contract. It's only a year's contract at this point. Any other questions or any other discussions?
We need to, one thing to address, the part-time county administrator will maintain her primary residence within the boundaries of Knox County, unless otherwise approved by the county commissioners, as her former and current to-be commissioner lives right on the border. I figure we should cross that T and dot that I and eliminate that part from the contract.
Eliminate what part? That she has to live in the county?
Yes.
Well, that's part of the charter. The charter says that.
Right,
the
but
we can't make a contract that goes contrary to the charter. So what we're trying to do in the charter and say that, yes, she has to work there, but we can give her permission, as it says in the
That's
contract.
However, we need to do it as we did it once
Yeah.
before. We need to address that.
So
We
you're absolutely right, but I think what we do is approve this contract first.
Okay.
And then talk about where she's living. Any other discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed, so now we have an administrator. Unfortunately, she lives out of the
County.
county. Would you like to add something to the agenda to address that?
like to add that we address that issue to the agenda.
Any discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor of adding an item to the agenda, 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay, now what's the item we just added? Giving her permission to not live within the county for the course of this contract.
Yes,
I will make, are you making that motion or?
you can make it. I've made too many.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? As you say, it's just over the county line. Yes. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed. There, I think that's everything we have here so far. We don't have another meeting scheduled right away.
Officially till our next one in March, I believe.
And though something may come up between now and then, and not be surprised. Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any discussion? Being as none, all those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.